So, hello everyone! Once again we are going to plunge off into American history. This week's topic, progressivism, and a fabulous individual that we know of as Teddy Roosevelt. So fasten your seatbelts, put on your crash helmets, and let's get started. Okay. Well, you will recall from last time that industrialization, urbanization, and immigration remade America after the Civil War. Moreover, a few powerful individuals built vast fortunes, while many ordinary people endured poverty and want. This also created enormous stresses and strains within the country. Americans feared they were losing their liberty and their individuality. As a result, they began to organize and form new movements and political groups to protect themselves. One such movement we saw last time, populism, which you'll recall attempted to protect the interest of farmers. This week we'll look at a new movement, a movement that appeared somewhat later, progressivism. Progressivism appeared in the 1880s and 1890s as the middle and even upper classes began to become concerned about the way the country was headed. Particularly important in this group were the upper middle classes. Obviously, the middle class is a term meaning people who are neither poor, working class, nor very rich, upper class, but in the middle. Most of us today at least think of ourselves as middle class. However, within the middle class, there are also divisions. There is the working middle class, for example, which includes well-paid tradesmen. And there is an upper middle class. These are people who are affluent rather than really rich. They are doctors, lawyers, successful small business owners, and so on. In the 1880s and 1890s, such people felt threatened, particularly if they lived in small towns. Huge corporations seemed to be taking away their business. The government seemed corrupt and weak. Hordes of immigrants seemed to be making America a foreign nation. So they began to organize a new political movement, progressivism, which sought to reform the country. In particular, the progressives wanted the giant corporations and monopolies, also called trusts, broken up into smaller companies, or at least regulated by the government. They wanted the cities cleaned up, both physically, they wanted clean water and better housing for the poor, and morally. They wanted corrupt city governments replaced by civil commissions. They also wanted restrictions on the number of immigrants who could enter the country. No matter what they wanted, they were remarkable. They sought to create an activist government that would intervene in people's lives and the economy. This was new in American politics. Traditionally, Americans have argued for a very limited government. They have argued that it is up to the individual to improve his or her own life. Thus, the progressives introduced something new into the political discourse of the age. The progressives gradually coalesced around a small group of activist leaders from New York and Boston. The leader of these, as it turned out, was a man named Theodore Roosevelt, who would be the most powerful and forceful personality to hold the presidency since Lincoln. Please go to your textbook or other sources for more information on Theodore Roosevelt's life and biography. Be careful, though, not to confuse him with his cousin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was President of the United States, but later. Suffice to say that Theodore or Teddy Roosevelt was an almost fantastically energetic man who remade the American presidency. Gaining the office after President William McKinley was shot by a crazed assassin, Roosevelt was an activist, reforming president who advocated a strong central government and enacted a whirlwind of regulatory legislation. He helped draft new laws to control large corporations, fight corruption, regulate business, and aid the poor. He was also an early environmentalist who created large numbers of national parks and protected wildernesses. Unfortunately, like everything else in American history, he was a mix of both bad and good. If he supported the interests of the ordinary man and woman, he was also a dedicated imperialist. He helped engineer the Spanish-American War and forced Colombia to give up the area which is now the nation of Panama and then had Panama yield the area which became the Panama Canal. But one way or another, he was a remarkable man, and no one would ever forget him.